Welcome to New Saddlebag Day. Now you might be wondering why I'm so excited for a new saddlebag. Well, they say it's the small things in life, don't they? Over the last few years, since I would say 2020, I've seen a number of people standing at the side of the road that I've had to help because they just haven't had the necessary tools and equipment in their saddlebag. Now, as you can see, it's looking a bit sorry for itself, isn't it, this one? Held on by tape and lace. Yeah, it's a bit rubbish, that. And you might be wondering, well, why does my saddlebag look like that? Well, in another video I recently did, where I attempted to do 100 miles just fueling on sugar water, I had a bit of an accident with my saddlebag. It fell off and broke. But I've had a good few years out of it. But it's time to, well, upgrade to a new saddlebag. Now stay tuned because you're going to see an unboxing video and what I use in my saddlebag so that I am never stuck at the side of the road. Well, at least it covers 99.9% of most things that will happen. So stay tuned and subscribe because now you'll never be stuck at the side of the road again. Well, here it is, the old saddlebag with its sorry looking strap. That's a bit of lace to tie it on, didn't I? But anyway, now let's dive in and see what I use to keep safe on the road. Now you might be thinking, what on earth is that? Well, this is part of my thinking safety. Now this is one of those silver sort of tarpaulin things that you put around yourself to keep warm in, well, I would say the worst conditions, but you see these sometimes, you know, in sports events when it's maybe wet cold at the end of a race and people don't have anything to wear and they get one of these and it keeps them warm. So this is more of a, you know, a last measure sort of thing, but I think it's definitely a good idea to keep one of these with you at all times because you never know when you might need it. So definitely recommend one of those silvery reflective heat insulating things. I can't remember what the name is of it. Now tape. Whoa. Now I had to use this tape in order to tie my saddlebag on when it broke off. So I'm glad I had that, and I've actually been using a bit of, until my new saddlebag came, I had to use a bit of string. So I'd also say take some string with you as well because you never know when you might need it. So tape. Always take tape. Now I was given this by a friend, so you know who you are, thank you. Now essentially this is I think it's a gear cable, the end of a gear cable. So essentially this little blob at the end, if you do your own mechanics on your bike, that essentially goes in to the hood at the top, and when you feed it in, and that's what it rests against in the hood. But I'm not sure what that is. I think that's just a bit of rubber outer on a cable from the rear derailleur. And essentially what you do is, if you ever snap your gear cable, what you do is you put this in the reverse way in your rear derailleur if you've got mechanical, and essentially it allows you just to have you know, just a few gears at the back just to get you home. So this is a great bit of kit, so I'd definitely recommend this. So yeah, it's just an old piece of gear cable, just put a little bit of solder on the end, bit of rubber there to hold it in, and that will get you home. So yeah, thank you for that. Thank you, Rob. Now what do we have next? Well, we have the oh dear, that's not good, is it? We have the old bike pump. Now the reason why it's like that, it shouldn't be like that, it's just needs to be screwed back in, or maybe not. Oh no, I think we've sorted it, I think. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's a bit dirty. Anyway, I'll fix that off camera, but essentially that's why you need to keep checking your pumps. So you need to have a bike pump. Now this one is a Race Rocket from, I think it's, well, I don't know how you pronounce it, but I pronounce it Top Peak, or Topeak, or Toe Peak. And you always need your little pump. Now I've seen people with huge pumps that come on their top tube, but I would always say, you know, keep it simple with a, you know, a little one that could always be put in your saddlebag, because, you know, if it's out on the, you know, outside of the bag, it's, you know, it's going to be in the elements and it's going to wear down quicker. And I've had this for years. I just need to give that a little check over off camera. Now I take with me butyl inner tubes, and I actually take 2 with me. Always take at least 2. Now I was thinking actually I might start taking a 3rd, because the amount of times I meet people who have had a puncture and they don't have a spare inner tube. Now I run inner tubes in my tyres on my road bike. I don't run tubeless. Now tubeless is, I think, a discussion for another day, and we'll just keep it what's in the saddlebag today and not get into the should I run tubeless or should you run tubeless or not. Personally, I would say don't run it. It's not worth it, the time, and you don't need it. But anyway, so why do I run butyl inner tubes in my saddlebag? Well, from experience, I did try. So in my race bag here, I have TPU inner tubes. Now they're great because they're light and they don't puncture, and there's no problem with them. But I wouldn't recommend necessarily taking a TPU as a replacement, and the reason for that is, for example, now it's going towards winter, and when the puncture eventually does happen, and it's maybe dirty and gritty and not very pleasant, for example, on the roads, and you come to take your TPU, they are quite delicate. They are very thin, and you know, in the real world, if you're out and you're trying to change it and you know, there's grit, and when you're changing your tyre, you're in a tube and it gets cut very easily on a piece of grit. So I would recommend taking, and I mean, they are heavier, but with butyl, you know, they're a lot more sort of bomb proof, really. They're not as delicate. So I don't think in the real world, I don't think there's anything actually better, at least to get you home if you have a puncture, and then you can change it back out for your preferred inner tube. And also, if you are running tubeless, I would still take inner tubes. Again, I've had people I see them stopped and they don't want help because they say their tyre is going to seal, and well, I would always take an inner tube, at least one for the front and one for the back, and then you won't be caught out. Now I also have some tyre levers, because I find that most of the time I can get tyres on with just my bare hands, but if you're out and your hands are cold and you can't quite hook it over the rim, then I'd always recommend taking some tie levers, and these are from Schwalbe. I've had these quite a long time and I've snapped a few pairs, but these, I'd recommend the Schwalbe. That's what I use. So yeah, always take a pair, because if one snaps you've got another one. Now I take, again, a Top Peak multi-tool. Always take the multi-tool, and say this has got, I can't remember how many, it's 21, is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 15 different tools I think. So you know, it's got chain breaker, it's got different size, I think 4 or 5mm Allen key, it's got actually a tiny little metal tire lever, but this will cover you for most, 99% of all cases. I would say also one thing to mention with something like this is the only time I ever use WD-40, and I don't use it on the bike as far as I can remember. I don't remember the last time I used one, but occasionally just give your multi-tool a little spray, because I've come to use it and I've tried to open it up in the winter or and it's got dirty, even in the saddlebag and salt and whatnot, and I can't move the individual Allen keys separately to each other and they're just stuck. So I try and move one and the whole thing is just stuck. All of the tools are just stuck together. So that's something definitely to bear in mind. Just do that, even once or twice a year, really. Definitely before winter and definitely after winter. And oh, more tape. You never have too much tape. And I also have a little bottle of bike lube. Now this is squirt lube. I always recommend squirt lube. It's basically just an emulsion of water and wax. So it's just when your bike chain starts to squeak, this will just get you home nice and quiet. You don't have to have that horrible noise where you get that squeaky chain. Now I also have in here a spare bit of tyre. Now you might be wondering, what on earth is that for? Well, if you ever gash your tyre badly on a piece of glass, for example, or whatever it might be, and you've got a big slit or hole in your tyre that is too big to keep riding without stuff maybe getting in and puncturing your inner tube, I would put this in on the inside of the tyre. So I don't have a tyre here, and this essentially would plug the hole, and so when you're refitting your tyre you put it on the inside, and I've cut this down, the edges down, so that it would fit on the inside, and that way it stops the hole that you might be in your tyre being open to the elements, so you're not risking getting more punctures. So just an old piece of worn tyre, and you just cut it, and you don't need to make sure it's worn tyre obviously, and then always take a bit of worn tyre with you. Might seem odd, doesn't it? But now I have also a quick link with me, and this is an 11-speed one because I have 11-speed chain, so always make sure you check. Obviously, if you need to fix your chain, you've got a new pair of chain links. I mean, I wouldn't recommend once you've, these are things just to get you home, so I would recommend, if you've needed to use a quick link, obviously your chain's worn and whatnot, so you're gonna have to start over again with a new chain, but always take your quick links. Now I also have a valve extender. Now I run at the moment, these are 30mm deep rims, but if you ever are forgetful and you change your rim maybe to a deeper section and your replacement inner tubes aren't long enough. Now I've made that mistake, stupidly enough, of going out with me short inner tube valves with deeper section rims on my bike, come to change it, and I can't even reach the valve with my pump, my little saddle bag pump. And yeah, I've had to do the SOS because I could not replace the inner tubes. Now I didn't have this essentially, you know, and also for someone, if you're in a group ride and the same thing happens, then you can allow them to borrow your valve extender. So essentially you take off, what you do is you have a little tool like this. So this is a little valve removal tool. So I'm not going to take it off now, but you put it on here like this, and you turn that and it'll unscrew the valve. You'll then screw this on like so on the end, and then with the valve that you removed, you put it and you tighten it on there, and you've got, you know, twice the length of a valve basically. So don't make the same mistake I've done. I only had room in this saddlebag for 2 inner tubes, and with my new saddlebag from, again, Top Peak, look at this. Now I'm going to be able to, oh, what have we got in here? New TPU inner tubes, great. Now I'm going to be fitting these to my winter bike, and I've got my little repair kit for them. Now these are a bit more expensive, but they're definitely worth the investment. So I'm going to put these on my winter bike, which you can see just over here. That'll probably be another video, so subscribe for that. And the wheels, I'll show you them in that video. And I'm going to probably put these on, yeah, definitely put these on, and then as replacements I'll use butyl. I'm not doing it butyl on and then these as replacements, because I've explained I don't think that's a good idea in the real world. And I understand these are light to have in your saddlebag, but believe me, experience is definitely more insightful than just saying the words. So as you can see, this is going to be great, because not just being able to fit all of my tools and whatnot in here, especially as it goes into winter, I'm probably going to use, because this is so large, able to be put in, you know, other clothing, you know, so extra gloves or an extra coat or extra food, and it'll just go on here on my saddle. So that's great. Really looking forward to using that. It might seem a bit insightful, but definitely, you know, the experience of, you know, I've run without having a saddlebag because I thought, you know, it's pro not to run with a saddlebag and whatnot, but you know, when you stood at the side of the road, in the road, and it's cold and wet and windy and it's winter and it's just very unpleasant, don't recommend it. So if you found this video helpful, and maybe you think that I forgot something or something that you run that I don't, then let me know in the comments. And I say, stay tuned. I've got other videos, and there's a bunch of other videos on the channel that might be entertaining for you. So anyway, like and subscribe, and thank you for your time. Cheers.